The 1990 murder of 18-year-old Rhonda Sue Coleman didn't go cold because investigators lacked leads. Typically, unsolved cases stall when police simply run out of witnesses to interview. But on the night Rhonda vanished, multiple independent witnesses placed her near a very specific vehicle. 4 separate people, who all passed polygraph tests, placed a local deputy's patrol car directly next to Rhonda's abandoned vehicle on the dirt road. One witness even claimed the deputy explicitly threatened him to leave the scene. As multiple witnesses place a police cruiser at an abduction scene, an arrest should be immediate. So why was no one ever charged in Rhonda's death? Because the deputy driving that specific patrol car was Marky Hall. He was the son of the sitting Jeff Davis County Sheriff, the exact department tasked with investigating the crime. This massive conflict of interest completely paralyzed the investigation. It created a 30-year chilling effect, where townspeople with critical information refused to come forward, terrified of retaliation from the very officers meant to protect them. For decades, Rhonda's case was trapped in this localized web of silence. But today, the Coleman-Baker Act allows the state to bypass local police, unsealing the hidden evidence to finally find her killer. In May 1990, the small town of Hazlehurst, Georgia, was preparing for high school graduation. Senior Rhonda Sue Coleman attended a banner decorating party with classmates, but she never made it home. Later that evening, a friend driving down a rural highway spotted Rhonda's 1989 Chevy Cavalier pulled over on the shoulder. The engine was still running. Her purse was resting in the passenger seat, and footprints in the dirt led directly from her door to where another vehicle parked. 3 days later, a hunter discovered Rhonda's partially burned body in a remote wooded area 15 miles away in a neighboring county. The state crime lab completed an autopsy, but couldn't determine an official cause of death. For over 30 years, the investigation went absolutely nowhere. The town of Hazlehurst fell under a rigid wall of silence, with locals too terrified to share what they saw that night, fueling rampant rumors that local law enforcement was orchestrating a massive cover-up. For 30 years, Rhonda's murder stood as a chilling landmark in Hazlehurst, an unsolved crime that underscored how easily justice could be delayed when a community becomes convinced the truth is being suppressed. That dynamic shifted drastically in 2023 when Georgia enacted the Coleman-Baker Act, a law partially named after Rhonda that gives families the legal power to force law enforcement to re-examine stalled homicide investigations. Simultaneously, an investigative podcast called Fox Hunter began airing in-depth interviews with Hazlehurst locals, bringing decades of hidden, explosive eyewitness testimony out into the open. Facing this combined pressure of a strict new legal mandate and relentless independent media scrutiny, the 30-year silence has shattered, forcing the Georgia Bureau of Investigation to zero in on 3 very specific suspects. The first suspect is Mickey Beecher, one of the last people to interact with Rhonda on the night she disappeared. Multiple eyewitnesses confirm that after the banner decorating party, Rhonda stopped at a local convenience store where she was seen talking directly with Beecher shortly before her 10:30 curfew. One of those witnesses came forward to reveal that Beecher told Rhonda they had to go meet someone, explicitly making it sound like they would be in serious trouble if they failed to show up. This brief interaction paints a dark picture of her final hours. It strongly indicates that Rhonda was the victim of a specific, targeted meeting, rather than a random crime of opportunity. The second suspect is even more polarizing, Marky Hall, the son of the man who was serving as the Jeff Davis County Sheriff at the time of the murder. This timeline animation details the narrow window of events that night, showing exactly when multiple independent eyewitnesses spotted a distinct county deputy vehicle pulled up right next to Rhonda's abandoned Cavalier. One of those witnesses, who recently passed a polygraph test administered by a retired GBI expert, stated that when he drove past the scene, Marky Hall personally threatened him, telling him to leave immediately unless he wanted something bad to happen. Compounding these claims, a local resident has publicly alleged that Sheriff Hall privately admitted he knew his son was involved in the abduction, but simply could not bring himself to arrest his own flesh and blood. When you combine eyewitness accounts of Hall at the active crime scene with his father's absolute authority over the county, the persistent local theories of a coordinated law enforcement cover-up suddenly have a clear, logical focal point. The third suspect, John Strickland, is tied to the case not by small-town politics, but by physical evidence, a documented history of hostility towards women, and a recent aggressive altercation with Rhonda. This map traces the 15-mile route from the abduction site to the remote Montgomery County woods, where Rhonda's body was dumped. It highlights a very specific area, the exact zone where Strickland had just finished clearing timber, proving he intimately knew the secluded terrain. Strickland routinely carried a specific mixture of gas and oil in his truck to fuel his chainsaws, a chemical composition that perfectly matches the accelerant used to partially burn Rhonda's remains. Furthermore, investigators found tire tracks at both the abduction and recovery scenes that matched the tires on Strickland's truck, and a newly uncovered witness has completely destroyed his original alibi for the night of the murder. While Beecher and Hall provide the opportunity and the potential for a localized cover-up, Strickland brings the physical means, the chemical accelerant, and the geographic knowledge required to dispose of the evidence. Today, the investigation looks entirely different, as the Georgia Bureau of Investigation reacts to this mounting pile of verified circumstantial evidence. Empowered by the funding and legal teeth of the Coleman-Baker Act, the GBI's newly formed cold case unit has conducted over 150 interviews and investigative acts in the past year alone. The pressure on anyone still hiding information is immense, amplified by a massive new public campaign pushing the reward for an arrest and conviction to $150,000. Through her parents' relentless determination, verified polygraph testimonies, and a strict state law, the suspects can no longer hide behind the shadows of small-town politics. The 30-year wall of silence in Hazlehurst is broken. As the GBI follows these new leads and re-examines the original evidence, the long-stalled search for Rhonda's killers is moving toward a definitive conclusion.